Today's session features two great stalwarts, Mr. Michael Kirk Douglas.
Every battle is won before it's ever fought.
On the set and on location, Michael was, and always will be, one of the great joys of my career.
How are we going to win our money back?
My minimum price for taking a stranded woman to a telephone is $400. And you stop sending me information, and you start getting me some. And I don't know how you wage war on your own family.
Because you're always stoned and you can't get it up.
I'm talking about acting as an art. When I was in jail. Up there, number 5, though. I'm the one who rushed to the hospital.
I'm pregnant.
What responsibilities?
Yeah.
Right that they play in so many conflicts around the world.
And I've been a UN messenger of peace for 17 years.
I've been honored to receive the Sajid Ray Excellence in Film Lifetime Achievement Award.
And Mr. Shailendra Singh.
2000 से ज्यादा एड फिल्म्स बना चुके हैं। ये राइटर भी हैं, इन्होंने फीचर फिल्म भी डायरेक्ट की है, शॉर्ट फिल्में भी बनाते हैं। सनबर्न जैसा जो म्यूजिक फेस्टिवल है वो भी इंडिया में लाने वाले ये हैं। बॉलीवुड स्टार्स और स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन का टैलेंट मैनेज भी करते हैं। तो प्लीज वेलकम शैलेंद्र सिंह।
I now request Mr. Singh to please begin the session.
How are you feeling, Michael? I mean, you've had a hurricane 48 hours in Goa. What's the vibe?
I feel good. No, it's been wonderful. Yeah, we've been here for 36 hours. Flew from New York to London. And since I've arrived here in Goa, Catherine and I and our son Dylan could not be more pleased and happy. The hospitality and the Goan friendship and the enthusiasm for film is overwhelming. And we're having a lovely, lovely time. Thank you very much, and thank you to all of you. It's been very, very nice. Thank you.
Okay, so this, I didn't want to do this. This is the worst thing to do, but I have to start like this.
Of course you do. The first thing.
Like, in all the movies, your favorite dialogue that you acted or you spoke, whether in television, on theater, or on cinema, your number one dialogue.
Boy, I would say, that's a hard one to say. The number one dialogue, probably two pictures come to mind.
Yeah.
One is a movie, I don't know if many people saw, a movie called Falling Down.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Turn around, look at that. You see what I mean? It's plump, it's juicy, it's 3 inches thick. Now, look at this sorry, miserable, squashed thing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, and that was a lovely, well-written story. It was the dialogue was very good, and the story made a lot of sense. And then I had 2 in 1 year, which was the kind of the year that made my career, where I sort of stepped out of the shadow of my father. And that was the year where we had both Fatal Attraction, which was a really good, very good story, and I mean, a great what if, very simple.
I don't know what you're up to, But I'm going to tell you it's going to stop right now.
No, it's not going to stop. It's going to go on and on until you face up to your responsibilities.
What responsibilities?
And then that was followed by Wall Street 3 months later. Thank you.
Read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Every battle is won before it's ever fought.
And both of those movies had very good dialogue. That was the year between the commercial success of Fatal Attraction and I won the Oscar for Wall Street. That was the year that sort of changed my life.
Wall Street!
And up until then, you know, my father had done okay. You know, my father, Kirk, had made 90 movies. He'd been nominated for 3 Academy Awards, and that was a big image, you know, to both worship, as I did. I admired him so much, but then ultimately to overcome and to create your own person, be your own man. I guess I have to divide my career into acting and producing. So I was fortunate in the last 2 years of my college experience at the University of California, Santa Barbara. In the summer, I worked at a summer theater, and they have what was called the National Playwrights Conference, and they would develop new plays, and we were part of an acting company that would put on these new productions, these new plays. And so I learned the importance because every actor is very self-involved. And all of a sudden it takes you being at a theater company where it's only about developing the plays to realize that you are insignificant. It's only the play, the material that matters. And so my experience those 3 summers left me with how important the material is. And that became the core of my strength for the rest of my career. So as a young actor, or even before I was a young actor, I had read in American literature the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which was a successful novel. And by chance and coincidence, my father, who was an actor producer, had acquired the book and had it developed into a play, and had gone back to New York to do this play on Broadway. It was right after his success in Spartacus, so he was a major star, and it was very unusual for a star of his stature to go back to a commitment on theater in New York. And he went back, and he did the play, but it wasn't successful. It was not successful. And his vision had been to do the play, and then it'd be successful, then he'd turn it into a movie, but it was a wonderful part for him. Anyway, I read the book in college, in an American literature, 20th century American literature course. It's fantastic. I've begun my acting career, not going too well. I'm doing a couple of television parts and this and that, and working away. And my father is going to sell the rights to Cuckoo's Nest. He can't get it made into a movie. He's getting old, he's going to sell the rights. I said, Dad, let me run with this. Let me try to get this set up before you sell it. I'll get you the money. I'll try to get you the part as the actor.
How old were you then?
I was 24, 23. Wow. Actually, it was them. So, thank you. So, and that was the beginning. I never thought about being a producer, right? It just was this product. So, meanwhile, I was fortunate enough as an actor to get this television series, The Streets of San Francisco, which was a big hit. Well, there's one person there. But it was a series, a very successful series that was seen around the world, all over the world. And I did 104 hours of that show over 4 years in San Francisco. A 1-hour show, epilogue, 3 acts, a prologue. But it's like exercising, lifting weights. So you learn a lot about actors. You have a guest star every week, directors. So at the same time I was doing that, I was trying to develop One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest into a movie. And by the time, in the 5th year of my series, I finally got the financing together to make the picture, and I left the series. People said I was crazy. It was a very, very successful show. 4 years I've been doing it, going into my 5th year of my contract. And I had a wonderful, wonderful actor named Carl Malden, who was my co-star and the star of the series. And I said, look, you know how long I've been working on this. Will you let me out of my contract to go and pursue this? And he said yes. He was very nice, and the producers. By the way, this would never happen now. Nobody would let you out of a contract, you know, so I deeply appreciate it. So that was the beginning then of my producing career. But everything between the experience that I had on the series, 104 hours, this was the core for me of basically always looking at the material. Not concerned about my part as an actor, but thinking what would be a good movie. Because I wanted to be in good movies. I didn't care if I had a smaller part. I'd rather have a small part in a good movie than a big part in a bad movie. You know, so... And
now that we're on the film, one question for all these budding young producers. How did you raise the money for that film?
I went into my father's file and I looked at all the people that he had approached.
Seriously?
Or who had approached
This is true
him.
story.
This is a true story.
Okay.
Or had approached him when he was trying to set it up. And I found a company in Berkeley, California, in Northern California, a record company. A record company was famous for its jazz labels, but had one rock and roll group called Creedence Clearwater Revival. I don't know if anybody knows Creedence Clearwater Revival, which had made the money most money for the record company. And I approached them again, said, you were interested in one time, and I found out there was a confusion. And so they were excited and happy to produce it. And my partner was a gentleman named Saul Zantz, and the rest is history, but we went together. Both of us were virgins as far as producers were concerned. As many of you may, if you've seen the movie, it takes place, most of it, 90% of the movie takes place in a mental hospital.
Very peculiar when you throw in something like that.
Why?
What does that mean?
Peculiar, Harding. Peculiar. Harding. I'm going to tell you guys something.
And we ended up going up to Oregon in January when the light does not, it gets dark very early and this and that. And we did all the wrong things, but everything turned out to be right. Because we created an environment up there where the actors could not go home at night.
Yeah, I was coming to that.
But they almost lived there at the hospital, and it really helped create this ambiance.
You actually made the decision to shoot on real location. You did not put up a set anywhere. And then obviously the cast and crew actually stayed in those cells in the rooms, right?
But we had a hotel in town, but the first...
But I heard the lead merely left...
when we were rehearsing, we had 2 weeks of rehearsal at the hospital before we got there. And some of the actors, one of the actors, Danny DeVito, who was a very close friend, that's when I met Danny, some of the actors would sleep at the hospital. It was actually an active mental hospital, but we were using a couple of the wards. And then finally, our lead actor, Jack Nicholson, who had a previous commitment, so he came to the rehearsals later, much later. And he arrived the first day of the rehearsal, and by this time, the actors, they were really into it, right? They were really into their characters, in their characters. So Jack came and he had rehearsal in the morning, and then we broke for lunch at the cafeteria, and I could see he was looking around, and he was very concerned. And then all of a sudden, he got up from his table and he went outside. I said, oh, I got a problem with my star, uh-oh. And I go outside, and I said, are you okay, Jack? Are you okay? And he said, who are these people? said, what do you mean? Who are they? Are they crazy? Why? They never stop acting. They're acting all the time. I'm having lunch with them. They don't change. No, they're actors. You're okay. You're all right.
I don't think Jack was ready at that time.
He wasn't ready at that time. He was ready when we started.
Yeah, for sure. Your father's legacy, I think that is known to the entire universe. One impactful memory of your father that still is right there inside your soul.
Well, let's see. As an actor, I remember him saying the hardest thing to do is to be yourself. We always tend to want to make a character and everything. The hardest thing is to be simple, to be yourself. The most difficult thing is to listen. As actors, we're all ready to talk, and then we talk, and then we stop listening. This has been on this. So to listen. So in that area, as an actor, he was very helpful. And as a producer, I guess his best advice was, give it your best. Know that you've done your best. And then screw it. So, just do your best and then throw it away.
People act with their eyes, and allegedly there's a rumor that you act with your hair.
We all just saw it, didn't we? Have you ever seen so many different hairdos in your life? That was funny. I was watching the little trailer we had there. I said, it's true, I have a lot of different hair going on. He said,
What is harder for you, acting or producing? What do you prefer more? Or the complexities of it?
I like to prefer acting, but acting is very insecure. When I first started acting, I didn't start acting until I was almost finished in college. And I had terrible stage fright. Oh, no, I'd go in the theater. I used to have a waste basket off stage. And before I go up, I would get sick and they go, wow, I just had terror. And then the first years as an actor, somebody told me, the camera can always tell when you're lying. Ooh, the camera can tell when you're lying. So the first few years, I was like a method actor, just wiping the makeup off, trying to get down to the reality. And then it wasn't late, and so acting wasn't enjoyable for me. It was a challenge to overcome my stage fright, to overcome. And then it wasn't really until like Fatal Attraction. I'm reading the script. I said, okay, it's a lawyer. All right, I could be a lawyer. He lives in New York. I live in New York. He's an adulterer.
Yes, you can.
He said, and then I said, wait a minute, this character, I could be this character. And then this dawning came over me, and I know it's so bizarre to say it now, but then I said, wait a minute, acting is all about lying. It's lying. You're just pretending. You're basically trying to convince a person, so you're telling lies. You're just lying to them. And we all tend to maybe take a little lie every day about something, So that adjustment totally changed my whole understanding about the form, and I began to enjoy it much more. But there's always that uncertainty, and you don't ever know how it's going to come together. So your vision is only what is in front of you. They pay you for that. They pay you to be selfish. You're not interested in anything else. Producing, you have to know a 360-degree vision of everything that's going on. So I sort of enjoy that because I'm a control freak. And I like that, and I realized how much I'd learned about producing from the 104 hours of the show, the television show, and all of that. So it's a combination of the two. But the one thing I realized was that I don't like to do them together. Because producing takes away from acting. Because you're acting, you don't have that, if you're producing, you don't have the freedom. When you're acting, you're only thinking about the production, whether you're over schedule, over time, you cut yourself short as an actor. So they don't work well together.
So all the young producers, don't be actors. Focus.
Deal with your day job first, yeah, before. But the beauty, one of the incredible things about Indian cinema, and you're a perfect example, Shailendra, of how many different things you do. And I see all the time Indian cinema, many more Indian actors are also directors, or producers, or singers. So you do a much better job of covering, the different areas and do not limit yourself to one area.
I'm going to just request you to say something which is very interesting. So in your tonality of the way you were Gordon Gekko in Wall Street, that vocal cord and the intensity that you spoke with, can you repeat this Indian dialogue for me from a very popular movie in India? रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे बाप लगते हैं नाम है
I heard you the first time. नाम है
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas. Now, you're bringing up a little story. Something. My voice has changed. I had stage 4 cancer 10, 12 years ago after Wall Street, and it still has because of the radiation and everything. But I'm happy to be here, so I'll take a voice change.
So, Beck, what is your favorite?
I must say to you, just you reminded me because we have. Our voices are dubbed in movies, right? They're dubbed into German or whatever. When I first began my career, the first award I won was an award in Germany. It was called the Golden Bear, and I went over to receive my award in Germany. And Wall Street was actually a movie where I worked on my voice and the projection and all of that. But before that, I had a little bit of a thinner voice, a little higher. But anyway, I go over to get my award in Germany, and I get up, I want to thank you all very much for this. I look at the audience, and it's going, was ist das? I look at them, I don't know what's wrong. And then they say, here, listen to your, and I was a big hit in Germany. Oh, I had this great German voice, this beautiful German voice, and I was such a disappointment. So anyway, I learned after that, over all these years, whenever I went to a country, I would take my voice out for lunch to thank him for, helping my career.
Wow, such an important aspect that we don't even realize. What's your favorite portrayal of friendship in the history of cinema?
My favorite portrayal of friendship? I don't know, what is the movie I'm thinking about? With Tony Curtis, they were two prisoners that were handcuffed together. One of them, the Defiant Ones. I remember that was a picture I don't know, thinking about. A movie of mine with a friendship. My movies have no friends. They're all dark. No.
Your movies, everybody wants to be your friend, but you do some strange things to them.
Well, Matt Damon was my friend in the Liberace movie.
Just moving on to Kaminsky method.
You gonna help me or not?
$300,000!
Thereabouts.
Thereabouts. A little tip. When begging, it's good to have an exact number.
You'll get it all back.
So your friendship there with Alan, I don't know, it just looked extraordinarily special. And you hadn't met before you actually went to set.
No.
But then how does that happen? And so that experience, and what do you miss about Alan? It's unfortunate that
he passed away. Yes, he passed away. He's a wonderful actor, and there's a perfect example of great writing. It was a wonderful Chuck Lorre, who's a writer who did so many television shows, 2.5 Men, The Big Bang Theory, Young Sheldon. He's an excellent writer. He wrote all the episodes. And, you just, well, I'll take some credit, but Alan's a really good actor. I've learned from the beginning of my career to always, if you're the lead or the star in a show, sometimes actors come in for 1 day's work or 2 days' work and they're intimidated, a little bit, they're a little uncertain. And I always want every actor to be as good as they can, be better than me, be anything, because you want to make the project as good as possible. There are some actors that are a little selfish and self-involved who tend to just position themselves so that everybody else is not as good. It doesn't help the project. But in Alan's case, it was a really good actor. And between having good dialogue and working with a good actor, you're 3/4 of the way there.
Do you miss him a bit?
I do. We unfortunately didn't end, he did it for 2 seasons. And it's tough work. If you're not used to it, it moves fast, and the dialogue, and we both reach an age where our memorization isn't as good to memorize as to move that quickly. So he was tired, and he was not ready for a 3rd season. But rather than just saying that, he sort of created some friction with Chuck Lorre, which was unfortunate. But I enjoyed my time with him very much.
Beautiful. And outside of the family, who would be your bestest friend on the planet today?
Danny DeVito would be, he's one of my oldest friends because I knew him back on the beginning. But I have I'm fortunate, Shailendra, to have some friends. I have a good friend here in India, Shailendra, I do. And I have interests outside, but, I haven't really lived in Hollywood really since pretty much the early part of my career. I'm originally from back east in New York, and then after college I lived in Santa Barbara. So I have friends outside of the industry too, which I found really helpful. And in terms of raising our children, I think raising our children outside of Los Angeles, outside of Hollywood, has been good for them.
Super. But you spent nearly a decade in Bermuda?
Bermuda, yeah. My mother's family is from the island of Bermuda, and I have a big family down there. It's a very small island. And when Catherine and I first got together, we were looking around, where to go. We had an apartment in New York, and originally we were looking outside in the suburbs, maybe. And then one trip we went down to Bermuda, and Catherine said, I love this down here. There's the Queen. It's a British colony. They drive on the left side of the road. There's the Queen. I can't believe this is an hour and 20 minutes from New York. Wow. So I said, I love it here. So I have a lot of family on this small island. I don't know. And it turned out to be wonderful. It was a great place to raise our kids, and we loved it.
But you did it also with the intent to keep the kids away from sort of the glamour.
I grew up, my mother and father separated, divorced when I was 5. So I grew up in New York with my mother, would visit my father on holidays. Most all those holidays he was making a movie, so I was able to be around a lot of movies that he was making, either working on them when I got older or just visiting. And I attribute, I think part of my level-headedness was growing up away from Hollywood, living a middle-class life with my mother, and then visiting my father and all of that, but being able to see the difference.
But there was one interesting fact that I read somewhere, that your kids, they didn't know you were an actor. They thought you were an unoccupied professional and a good pancake maker at home.
That's it. They knew me as Daddy makes pancakes. That was true. In the beginning, Mom was an actress, Daddy made pancakes.
But how did you let them know that? Slowly? One day you just showed all the movies and sit down here.
No, the problem was I didn't have any movies that a child could see. all my movies were adult, adult movies. Hey, Dylan, you want to see Basic Instinct? No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
You're doing Comiskey Method, and then you're also doing a Marvel film at the same time.
My days of breaking into places and stealing shit are done. What do you want me to do?
I want you to break into a place and steal some shit.
How do you switch? Like, how does that happen? Is it that lying thing?
A couple of things happened. I had never done a green screen movie before, and I'm thinking about in my career, I'd never done these green screen movies. I was really curious about them, how to do them. And it's amazing, I have a whole new appreciation for the acting, because you go on to like this, you go on to an empty stage, and then you have either a green or a blue screen all around you, and they tell you, okay, all right, the spaceship is coming in from here, and the meteor is going to be coming in from over here, or this, and then they show you kind of pictures what it's going to look like. You go, okay, now go, and you do all. You feel like a complete idiot.
That's hard.
You feel like an idiot. You're sure you're overacting until you see it with the sound and everything else. And it's quite amazing. And I'm very impressed now that I've seen some of the other Marvel pictures and everything else, the ability. And I know here in India, you do a tremendous amount of animation and really, really good work. So I wanted to do that, but then it turned into 2, sequels, and then 3, and that was all right. And then what else? I have never done, my entire career had been contemporary movies about contemporary life. I'd only done one period picture in my career. So then I did Apple this last year, which it'll be coming out in April for Netflix. I did an Apple, not Netflix, excuse me, an Apple, it'd be an Apple service. Streaming services are very serious. I did an 8-hour mini-series playing Benjamin Franklin when he was in Paris. It's called Franklin's, coming out in there. And I had never done a period picture, so that was fun, learning how to sit and all that. And now I'm semi-retired, Shailendra. I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving it. I've stopped. I cleaned my plate off. I wiped off the blackboard, and kind of cleaning stuff up, and I'm enjoying I'm only 9 months into it, but I can see another year of not doing something. By the way, Goa is looking pretty good.
So you need to describe your wife in 100 words, looking into camera.
In 100 words, looking into the camera. Where's the camera?
It's everywhere.
Oh, it's everywhere.
God's eye.
God's eye. Well,
like
I guess I have to begin. So I went to a screening of a movie in Hollywood. I'm in Hollywood. Actually, my father was there. We're somebody's home, and we're screening a new movie. They have a screening rooms. Most of the Hollywood houses have screening rooms. And I'm seeing this movie called Zorro.
Not bad.
And I'm watching the movie, and I go, who is that? Wow. And I was a big fan of Julie Christie's. I think, a long time ago, was the last person I really had a kind of a crush on. And I went, wow, she is stunning. And then 2 weeks after that, I was having to do a promotion tour in Europe, promoting a movie called A Perfect Murder with Viggo Mortensen and Gwyneth Paltrow. And we go to the festival, a film festival in France, the Deauville Film Festival in France. And what you do is you present your movie one night, you show it, then you give a talk. And I'm looking at the schedule, and I see that Zorro is coming the night after our movie is showing. So I asked my assistant, can you find out if Catherine Zeta-Jones is coming to this thing, and if I could maybe have a drink with her? And they get back to me, said, yes, she is coming for one night, because she's in the middle of filming Entrapment with Sean Connery, in the middle of filming that. And yes, we'd love to have a drink. Yes. So.
And then you messed it up.
I messed it up because I had just finished. Deauville was the end of my promotion tour, going everywhere off the thing. I'd finished the day before. I was all done. I go have a drink with her, and then Antonio Banderas is there with Melanie Griffith, and I did a movie with Melanie Griffith. They said, well, why don't you join us for dinner? I said, okay, yeah. And we didn't know. And then they have to go off, because the movie's being screened, then they have to go off and do a Q&A afterwards. So I said to Catherine, by chance, if you're finished, I'll be in the bar after the movie. You want to come? So I didn't expect that she'd be coming. And
but you actually set that up. You waited in the bar for her.
No, I was in the bar.
You just don't hang in bars like.
No. I finished my tour. I was patting myself on the back. I'd finished my tour. I was all done. So I'm having drinks, this and that. And I look in the hotel entrance, coming through like a mirage.
Yeah.
Like Lawrence Arabia is Catherine Zeta-Jones. Oh my gosh, she's walking my way. And we come in down and we sit down and we have this wonderful conversation. And I talk about golf. She says, oh, I love golf. I said, you love golf? Oh, yeah, I just think it's the best. I also read an article that she actually was attracted to older men. Okay, so I had that. I knew this article. And then we find out that we have the same birthday, the same day. All right, star-crossed lovers or what? Same birthday. So I look at her, and I look at her on my first moment I've seen her, and I say, I am going to be the father of your children. And she looks at me, and she says, I've heard a lot about you. I've read a lot about you. So good night. Good night.
That was the first date.
That was the first date.
And that romance is still on.
23 years, we just celebrated our 23rd anniversary. Yeah.
I think, and the birthdays, what date?
September 25th.
Yes.
1944.
Ooh.
You know what that means this year, don't you? I think you're all really good at your math.
Just back to the interview. You've been through a lot. I mean, most people who are fans would have gone through his life's journey. It's sort of impossible making it possible. What was the toughest phase? I'm not going to mention everything, but the hardest phase of your life, when you felt that you were really hitting a brick wall, like, where is this all going?
You mean professionally or personally?
Personally.
The hardest time for me, I think, was when my oldest son, Cameron, was in prison, incarcerated for 7.5 years. He was a drug addict and had issues, serious issues. That was the toughest time for me. My heart, and not to mention dealing with his addiction. So that was probably the toughest time.
And how did you overcome it? Like, did the family stood, or was just yourself in that journey?
No, prison. Prison. You spent 7.5 years in a federal prison, and that over almost 2 years in solitary confinement, and so that was the last the last resort. You know, the problems with drugs is sometimes you have to bottom, as you say, have to bottom out before you realize. And in his case, because he was involved in selling, in terms of having enough money for his drug habit, and got caught, and so that was the. But then he got a very severe sentence for a non-violent drug offense. So that was a tough time.
And like, did it change you in any way, that whole journey?
Probably, you know, it was, I got cancer right after it. So I went through, you know, it was 2 or 3 years of cancer recovery. But it made me understand probably even more deeply drug addiction. I mean, the chemical addiction to drugs and how difficult and how strong it is, and what it creates your mind to do, what you will do to hang on to that addiction.
Is it time now for one world cinema? Like, how does a person who wants to tell a story, but gather the knowledge to understand the global watcher, like the global consumer? You know what I'm trying to get at? Like,
I do, but I don't.
Like Crouching Tiger, a film from China, and
yeah, but I don't think it started with. I don't think it starts with them thinking externally of what will make it a world cinema. It comes about from wherever country you're in, good movie making, which is usually about something personal to your country, and then realizing that it has an international message to it. It's a little different here in India than most other places because you have such an extraordinarily large film industry. You make so many movies. You're the largest country in the world, 1,400,000,000 people. So the need or the desire to go outside of your country isn't there as much as other countries. You have those movies, RRR being the latest, which was a big hit here and also one around the world. But it's different, like in the States, for instance, with the movies we make, I was thinking how many directors I've worked with that were foreign. Whether it was Ridley Scott, English, we did Black Rain together, whether it was Paul Verhoeven, who's Dutch, and we did Basic Instinct together, or I produced a movie called Face Off with John Woo. John Woo's the director, Chinese director, right? So what happens in the States is directors from other countries come to the States to develop pictures. But everything is in the material, and you have to make it for yourself. And I realized not think in terms of what will reach the rest of the world, but make it for yourself. And I think you see, I mean, look, we're seeing in South Korea, for instance, now the number of films in South Korea that are coming out. I don't know if it's happening here with Squid Game and a couple of the others. So it's hard to say for India because they're very comfortable within the distribution within their own country, not having to worry about trying to get a picture outside.
Yeah, true. Very well said, actually. But we are actually, the Indians, are we not ready now to make that one picture?
Well, you have pictures about it. It's Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah.
It's made by English, British guy or whatever. So there are,
Just, we've got the largest youth population on the entire planet. So India, 600 million below the age of 25. And the youth always looks for mentorship and a way to find the way forward, especially in these times, post-COVID, and technology taking over everything, all our lives, literally. What's your message to the youth of India, just to fire them up on the creative aspect of life?
Boy, if I had a message, my son Dylan, as you know, he's 25, and my daughter Karis is 20, And of all the different generations, the baby boomers, this one and everything, Gen Z, Gen Z, I have the most faith and support in. They are the ones, I think, worldwide who acknowledge the fact that their parents, me and other ones, have really messed up. And they're not really angry about it. They just want us to get out of the way so that they can clean this mess up that we have this planet. And because of social media, our problems are globally. Our problems should be really bringing the world closer together rather than just dealing country by country. And I think Gen Z understands that, and Gen Z owns social media, which allows us all from one country to another to be closer together and try to solve some of the world problems. Climate change affects us all. And one of the issues of why I'm involved, with the United Nations, which gets criticized a lot, but I think is the best organization in concept that we have for dealing with worldly problems and with their court and everything else. This is such a tiny planet. It's such a tiny planet. You look up into the sky in a great night, you look at the millions and billions of stars, and we've yet to find anywhere else that exists. How can we not understand how precious this tiny, tiny planet is, even though there's 7.5 billion people? And I had a lecture, I remember back at the university, by a man named Buckminster Fuller. He was a writer, but he had a book called Spaceship Earth. And he thought of Earth in terms of the size of a spaceship. That's how tiny it is. And that's how we have to begin thinking about it. And we have to begin, and I think that this younger generation is going to do a better job than any of us in dealing with what is the most important issues in the world. And I see the mistakes that we've made in the United States in terms of capitalism. I love democracy, but I think that the capitalistic influence of making money is far overreached. In other words, we have such a small, and this is happening in a lot of democracies, a very small, wealthy population, and then a large class, and the middle class, which we all hoped and dreamed to reach, is having a rough time making ends meet, at least in our country, which is called these hostilities. So I'm very optimistic about Gen Z, and I think we're going to really need them because there's a lot of conflict out there still.
I have a movement saying Earthian. It's my personal thing, nothing, just a voice to just amplify what he just said, that this planet is our home. We can build as many borders and boundaries that you like, but you can't ignore the fact that if your neighbor is sleeping hungry or unhappy, that energy is going to rub off on you. And I wrote a line 7 years ago where I said, world is the ego of humanity, earth is the reality. So sooner we... was that good?
You said that?
I wrote, yeah. It's my line.
Very impressive, very impressive. The world is the ego of humanity. Earth
is the reality.
Is the reality.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Archaeology.
Okay. What profession would you not like to do?
Gynecology.
Come on, guys. This is it. Mr. Michael Douglas. He's been so patient, so amazing.
you.